Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into something I find really fascinating. The soul and its journey from the perspective of the Baha'i faith.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I thought so. And we've got some excerpts from Baha'i writings about spiritual growth and the soul. So think of this as like your express ticket to understanding, what this faith has to say about who we are, like at our core, our purpose, and what happens when we leave this physical world.
Yeah, it's a question that has captivated people for centuries.
Yeah.
Many spiritual and philosophical traditions have looked at this.
Totally.
Who are we beyond the physical body? Is there something that endures?
Yeah.
And if so, what does that mean for how we live our lives?
That's a big one. And, I think the Baha'i teachings have a unique perspective on this. They start with this idea that the soul is not, some temporary thing. It's this eternal divine light, a spark of the divine within each of us.
Yeah. And there's a beautiful quote in Baha'u'llah's Hidden Words.
Yeah.
That, I think, really captures this essence. It says, "Thou art my dominion, and my dominion perisheth not. Wherefore fearest thou thy perishing? Thou art my light, and my light shall never be extinguished. Why dost thou dread extinction?"
Wow. That's powerful. It kind of makes you think about all the things we worry about.
Right.
Our appearance, our accomplishments, failures.
Yeah.
If our true essence is this eternal light, like all of that just seems
Right.
much less important.
Yeah. It's a profound shift, like a shift in perspective.
Totally.
And so if that's who we truly are,
Yeah.
if our true self is this eternal soul,
Mm-hmm.
then what about our physical bodies?
Right. What are they even doing here? What are we even doing here?
Exactly. The Baha'i writings use this really powerful analogy to describe this.
Yeah.
They say the body is like clothing for the soul.
So we're like wearing these temporary, vessels to experience the material world.
Exactly.
Abul Baha puts it this way: the soul does not enter or leave the body, but rather associates with it.
So it's like we're souls on loan to this world.
Yeah.
To learn, grow, experience all that this physical reality has to offer, but our true essence isn't bound to it. And then that raises another question.
Yeah.
What are we supposed to be learning?
Right. That's where this idea of life as a training ground comes in.
Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah, the Baha'i writings describe earthly life as,
Like a school.
like a brief preparatory stage in the course of an infinite journey that is to unfold in many worlds of God.
It makes you think, like, are we just focused on the day-to-day, or are we actually, like, working on those qualities that will carry us forward?
It's such a powerful invitation to consider the purpose of our experiences, right?
Yeah.
The Baha'i teachings suggest that every moment is this chance for us to develop virtues like patience, compassion, generosity, resilience.
All of the good stuff.
All that good stuff.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting how we view challenges as obstacles or setbacks. But maybe those challenges are actually, opportunities for us to strengthen our souls.
Yeah, to develop those qualities.
Yeah.
That will serve us not only in this life, but in the next.
Totally. So, okay, if we're souls
Yeah.
in these temporary bodies, like undergoing training, what happens when this life is over?
Right. Where do we go? What happens after death?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Baha'i faith has a very comforting perspective on this.
Okay.
They don't see death as an ending, but rather as a graduation, a transition to a new spiritual reality.
Like moving on to the next stage of our education.
Exactly.
Baha'u'lláh actually writes in Gleanings from the writings of Baha'u'lláh, "Know thou of a truth that the soul, after its separation from the body, will continue to progress until it attaineth the presence of God."
That's a beautiful.
It's beautiful. But I have to admit, I'm always curious about what attaining the presence of God actually...
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
What does that look like?
Yeah.
That's where things get a bit more mysterious
Okay.
and abstract.
Okay.
The Baha'i teachings acknowledge that the nature of the next world and our experience of the divine is something that we can't fully comprehend while we are still in these physical forms.
Right.
It's a realm that transcends our earthly understanding.
It's like trying to explain the vastness of the universe to an ant.
Yeah, we just don't have the capacity to fully grasp it from our current perspective.
Right. But I'm sure there are some, hints, descriptions that can at least give us a little glimpse, right?
There are some fascinating insights. For example, they suggest that things that we experience here have counterparts in the next world.
Counterpart. So, like, if I love pizza here.
Well, maybe not pizza,
Okay.
but the idea is that there are spiritual realities that correspond to the things that we experience here.
Okay.
But they exist in a more refined form, free from the limitations of the material world.
Okay, so, like, I can imagine the things that I know and love here. But, like, amplified? More vibrant? More real? In a way we can't even fathom now.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm starting to get a sense of it. But, if we're not our physical bodies and we're on this eternal journey towards, something that we can't even fully grasp yet, it kind of begs the question, who are we really?
Who are we? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the Baha'i teachings encourage us to shift our perspective.
Okay.
Instead of thinking about having a soul, they want us to think about being the soul.
Whoa. Okay, that's a big shift. So instead of saying, I have a soul, we should be saying, I am the soul. I can see how that would change things.
It's a radical reframing of our identity, right?
Yeah.
So instead of defining ourselves by our physical attributes, accomplishments, possessions, we start to see ourselves as these eternal beings, these sparks of the divine.
It makes you wonder how that would change the way we live our lives, our priorities, our interactions with the world. It's like a complete game changer. Like, it's almost like realizing the video game character you've been so engrossed in isn't really you. You're the player controlling the character. And suddenly, like, you have all these other possibilities.
It's a liberating realization, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It opens up a whole new realm of possibilities and invites us to live from this place of purpose and meaning.
Oh my gosh, this is blowing my mind. Okay, I think we need a moment to process all this. But before we do, I'm curious. If we embrace this idea of being the soul, does that mean we should abandon all material pursuits and become ascetics? Or is there like a balance between our spiritual selves and, our human experience? I guess we'll have to unpack that in the next segment.
Welcome back. I don't know about you, but my mind is still buzzing from our last segment.
Oh, tell me about it. It's a big one, right? To think about ourselves as like souls first and foremost.
It really is.
And it opens up so many questions. Like, if we're supposed to be, focusing on our spiritual growth, does that mean we have to give up all the things that, make life enjoyable? Like, do we have to become monks or hermits or something?
That's something a lot of people wrestle with, and the Baha'i teachings offer, I think, a really balanced perspective on this. It's not about denying the material world.
Okay.
Or rejecting the pleasures and experiences that this life has to offer.
So it's not about, like, deprivation or living in a cage?
No, not at all. We are here to experience life in all its fullness and learn and grow through our interactions with this physical reality.
Okay.
The Baha'i writings emphasize moderation and balance.
Okay.
They talk about engaging with the world in a way that benefits both our material and our spiritual well-being.
Got it. So balance is key. But what does that actually look like? Like in day-to-day life? Can you give me a specific example?
Sure. Imagine approaching your work, your relationships, your hobbies, even the challenges that you face, with this awareness that you are a soul on a journey.
Okay. Yeah, that would definitely change things. Like, I can see how that mindset would just change how you, like, show up in all those situations.
It's about bringing that awareness of your spiritual self into every aspect of your life.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're facing a conflict at work, instead of reacting impulsively or letting anger take over, you might pause.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, how can I respond to this in a way that reflects the qualities of my soul?
Okay.
How can I act with patience, with understanding, with compassion, even in this difficult situation?
Yeah. That's a great example. It's like taking a step back and remembering the bigger picture.
Right.
Like remembering who you are at your core.
Yeah.
Even when things get, stressful or whatever.
It's not about denying your emotions or pretending that challenges don't exist.
Right.
It's about responding to those situations from a place of spiritual awareness.
From the soul.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not about being, like, perfect, but making choices that are aligned with our spiritual value.
Exactly.
And speaking of choices, I'm curious about how this idea of living as the soul impacts, like, how we understand death.
Oh, yeah. It transforms really our whole understanding of death. It goes from being this frightening, unknown ending to being a natural transition, a graduation, a moving on to the next stage of our journey.
Right. You mentioned earlier Baha'u'llah's quote about the soul continuing to progress. until it attains the presence of God. Can you elaborate on what that means a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that has, intrigued and puzzled people for centuries. What does it actually mean to experience the presence of the divine? And the Baha'i writings are pretty clear that, while we are in this physical world, we can't fully comprehend what awaits us in the next. It's beyond the limits of our, earthly understanding.
It's like trying to explain color to someone who's never been able to see. We can use analogies and stuff,
Right.
but they're never gonna really get it.
Right.
Until they experience it themselves.
Right. You can't really put that into words.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't explore the possibilities.
Yeah.
The Baha'i writings do offer these glimpses into what this next world might be like, and they're quite fascinating.
Okay, I love a good glimpse into the unknown, so tell me more.
They describe this realm where our, spiritual capacities are heightened,
Okay.
where we continue to learn and evolve, and where our connection with the divine deepens.
So it's not like we arrive at some like heavenly finish line
Right.
and then that's it.
No.
We're not just like sitting on clouds for all eternity.
No, not at all.
Okay.
The Baha'i teachings really emphasize this idea of ongoing progress. Our souls continue to develop, and our understanding of the universe expands.
That's comforting, actually. So even after we leave this world,
Yeah.
the journey continues.
The journey continues.
I like that. And you mentioned before that there are counterparts in the next world to things we experience here.
Yes. It's important to remember that this next world transcends the limitations of our physical reality.
Okay.
And so things exist in a more refined spiritual form.
Okay, so if there's like a spiritual counterpart to like everything here, does that mean there's like a spiritual counterpart to me? Like, is there like a better, more evolved version of me somewhere out there?
That's a very intriguing concept. The Baha'i writings don't really delve into the specifics
Okay.
of like individual counterparts,
Yeah.
but they do suggest that the next world is a reflection of the spiritual realities
Okay.
that we cultivate in this life.
So in a way, we're already creating our spiritual counterpart
Mm-hmm.
through the choices we make, the virtues we develop,
Mm-hmm.
and the way we live our lives.
That's a really interesting way to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are constantly shaping our spiritual selves, and those qualities will undoubtedly have an impact on our experience in the next world.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. So, we've established that we're eternal souls, that this life is a training ground, that death is a transition, and that this mysterious, amazing next world awaits. But knowing all that, how do we actually live from that perspective? How do we make this concept of being the soul-like something we embody every day?
That is the big question, and it's something we're going to explore more deeply in our next segment.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the soul's journey. I'm ready to keep going. We've explored some mind-blowing concepts.
Yeah, it really has been a journey, hasn't it? We've talked about the soul's eternal nature, this life is a training ground, the mysterious realm that awaits us.
Right, all that good stuff. And I think that leads us to this big question. How do we actually live as the soul? It's so powerful. I'm not sure I fully grasp, what it looks like practically speaking.
Yeah. I think it's not about following a strict set of rules
Okay.
or rituals. It's more about cultivating a certain mindset, a way of approaching life that's aligned with our spiritual nature. It's about recognizing that spark of the divine within us and letting that guide our actions.
So it's more of an inner transformation than a set of outward behaviors?
Yeah, I think so.
I like that. But I have to admit, it's a little abstract. Can you give some concrete examples of what that might look like?
Sure. Think about those moments when you're faced with a choice.
Okay.
Maybe it's a choice between acting out of anger or responding with patience and understanding.
Okay.
Maybe it's a choice between, indulging in a selfish desire or choosing to act with generosity and kindness. In those moments, living as a soul means pausing
Okay.
and asking yourself, what choice would reflect my true nature, my spiritual essence?
It's like checking in with your inner compass, making sure you're heading in the right direction.
Exactly. It's about aligning your actions with your highest values, with those qualities that reflect your true divine self.
I see. But it sounds like a lifelong process, constantly striving to align our actions with our spiritual selves. I mean, can we actually achieve that? consistently.
Well, the Baha'i teachings are, pretty clear that we're not expected to be perfect.
Right.
Right. This journey of spiritual growth is a process. We're all going to make mistakes along the way.
So it's not about beating ourselves up. It's about learning.
Exactly.
And continuing to strive.
Yeah. And the Baha'i writings offer, some guidance on how we can actually nurture our souls and strengthen that connection with our spiritual selves. They emphasize things like prayer, meditation, and reflection.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
It's all about connecting with something larger than ourselves, quieting the noise, tuning into that inner voice.
Right. And they also highlight the importance of service to others.
Oh, interesting. How does that connect with living as the soul?
Well, the Baha'i teachings emphasize the interconnectedness of humanity.
Yeah.
And they teach that when we serve others, when we contribute to the betterment of the world around us, we're not only benefiting those we serve, but also ourselves.
It's like we're all part of one big ecosystem.
Mm.
And when we nurture that ecosystem, we're nurturing ourselves.
Exactly. And acts of service don't have to be grand gestures.
Right.
It can be something as simple as offering a kind word,
Yeah.
lending a helping hand,
Right. Right.
or just being a good listener.
So looking for those little opportunities to express our spiritual qualities.
Yeah, in our everyday interactions.
In our everyday lives.
Yeah, exactly. And when we approach life from that perspective, when we see ourselves as souls and a journey of growth and service, it changes everything. It impacts the way we treat ourselves, the way we relate to others, and the way we interact with the world around us.
It's like shifting from this mindset of scarcity and competition to abundance and unity.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. It's such a beautiful way to summarize the essence of living as the soul.
It is.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together, that we're all interconnected, and that our individual journeys are part of this larger tapestry.
And I think what's so hopeful about this whole concept is that it suggests, that we all have the capacity for this kind of transformation.
Yeah, it's not limited. It's available to everyone.
Exactly. We each carry that divine spark. It's never too late to nurture it and let it shine.
That's right.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of myself and, what this life is all about. Thank you.
Me too. As we wrap up, I want to leave everyone listening with one final thought. Remember that you are a soul on an eternal journey. Embrace the beauty and wonder of this journey. Learn from every experience and never stop striving to live in alignment with your true divine self.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it was thought-provoking and inspiring.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep the light of your soul burning bright.